Hey there, emerging expat. You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm Victoria from Expats Everywhere's podcast, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you, YouTube travelers, and our resident of Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kaylee. Each week they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, Beile shares her journey of relocating to Portugal as a single parent with 2 children, discussing the challenges she faced and the financial considerations of moving abroad. To keep this podcast going strong, we've included a few brief ads. Thanks for supporting us by listening.
One of the most important pre-move things to consider involves your finances. Here's the cool thing. If you've moved already, it's not too late.
Yeah, that's right, because we met John a little late in our journey, but he certainly helped us make sure that we're on the right track.
John McNerney from Green Ocean Advisors is an American living in Lisbon with an office in San Francisco, which helps him have a pulse on both sides of the pond. John helps people understand where they're at before they take the plunge and move abroad.
As a financial advisor, John can help you understand your financial position no matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're curious about what your realistic retirement date is or how to invest your money post-retirement.
His love for finance and the differences between US and Europe have given him the ability to guide his clients in the right direction when it comes to investing and allocating funds. For example, you might want to sell your house before you become a tax resident here in Portugal, so you're not paying additional taxes here.
Josh and I have even talked to him on several occasions about some major life events that have happened to us and how to navigate them smartly from a financial perspective. If you'd like to be put in touch with John from Green Ocean Global, click on his Calendly link below to schedule a free consultation that he provides our viewers to see if he's the right fit for you.
Just make sure that you choose the Expats Everywhere intro call for your free consultation. Hey, expats and travelers alike, welcome back to Expats Everywhere presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast. Kaylee, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I don't want to say that I'm rested and relaxed from the weekend, but we'll get into that in just a second. But I'm doing well. I'm ready to go to an FC Porto match. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. If you're watching on YouTube and you see the video, we're both in our jerseys. I'm wearing the new away jersey for this year, which I really like the color. Last year, they did this ugly orange color. And this year, it's kind of funny. It's like kind of similar. Normally, they go for like a totally different, like it would be like purple or like a really different color. And they went for more of like a salmon
Coral
color.
Or salmon. Yeah.
And I like the color.
Yeah, it's nice.
I haven't gotten a jersey from them in a while. I normally just wear the original blue and white striped home jersey.
Yeah. So I'm actually wearing last year's home jersey.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about getting, which one to get actually. There's a white jersey that I loved when I saw it drop on IG, but I'm not so in love with it when I see it in person. But I'm still trying to lose some weight. So I'm going to wait till I get down to like 185 and reassess what size do I need.
Yeah.
So
good call.
Yeah, if you're new here, thank you so much for showing up and putting up with us for the last minute or so as we waffled. I mean, it's a waffle in the sense that this is the portion of the show that we call Weekly Welcome. So you heard from our producer, Victoria, who gave you an introduction of what's going on. But basically, this is a podcast that is about Portugal. So we have an introduction, a weekly welcome that we kind of unpack what's happening in our lives in Portugal and on our YouTube channels. And then and get you caught up to speed. And then we get into like the main event, which is generally an interview. And this week we have an interview with a very interesting woman named Beile.
Yep. I just want to say one more thing about the Porto stuff.
Please.
It's a friendly. So the season hasn't started yet. So this is the first friendly.
And we're recording this. I mean, this is kind of get into the weekly welcome, but we're recording this on a Sunday, which is when the friendly is taking place, not on a Monday when we usually do. The day before we release these episodes, because I am down in Lisbon tomorrow filming.
Yep. Just for the day.
Yeah.
C and I will stay here. Josh will head down and come back.
Yeah. Okay. We shot an interview with a girl named Mako, who is Japanese and has a really cool YouTube channel. And we did an interview with her and her life in Lisbon and what it's like. But I need a little bit of B-roll. I need some footage so you guys can see what it looks like when she's walking around her hood.
Yep, that one. And then we're also getting ready to release the Lisbon Biggest Mistakes video, because we have a Porto Biggest Mistakes video. And we've been wanting to do a Lisbon one. It's just time consuming, I guess. And it's a lot of work. And then we have to get down there and make sure we get the right footage for it. So
Porto is easy to do.
Yeah, of course, we're here. So we were down in Lisbon not long ago and we got a lot of footage, but we also didn't get everything we wanted to. So
Kaylee's sending me back down with the shot list.
Yes. And
it's like when you send me to the grocery store with the shopping list.
Yes, that's true. And so then that'll be out soon as well on the main channel.
Yeah. So back to the beginning where we were talking about when we were retired, we just, if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, we just did a camping weekend, and it was the first one that we've done. And boy, that was fun.
Interesting. So the way it all came about is Kim, the owner, or one of the owners of Spirala Eco Village.
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes I say Eco, and Josh, like I think it's Eco. Eco Village, which is a little north of is Eco Village.
Well, I mean, the fact that you put that and Village together, I was just going with it.
Oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
Spirala, there you go, which is a little north of Castelo Branco in Portugal. He reached out and just said, "Hey, we have this campsite," and explained it a little bit and said, "If you ever want to come," and I do not camp. I'm not a camper, but I thought, hey, maybe this would be a good opportunity for Sia to get out of the city and get into some nature. And so that's what we did. But I think Sia's a lot more like me, because when we first got there, she was like, bugs and dirt. And I'm like, she's a city girl.
Yeah, she likes aspects of it. Like she likes playing with the rocks and pine cones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However,
or like lakes and water and that part. She definitely likes the water part.
Yes, but bugs, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ants, flies, bees, whatever.
I don't blame her.
Not
I don't
into
like them either. Maybe she gets a little bit of that for me, because when if it's a fly, no big deal. But if it's a bee, I'm like running the other direction.
Yeah.
Not like screaming, but just like get it away from me, like that.
Yeah, I mean, you all were definitely not into the compost toilets.
Oh my gosh. Well, and we took a friend of Sia's. So it's, 3 girls. So anytime there's a bathroom, it's not like Josh was helping out in the bathroom.
No.
So I was in that compost toilet so much.
Yeah, you basically live there.
Oh, gosh.
Now, we haven't asked like if it was a full-on camping trip, or it was glamping, or what.
Not glamping.
I would say, it was like middle of the road, at least for us. We were talking to another person that was on the campsite, and they were saying that of the camping sites that they visited across Portugal in the past month, and this was like an American middle-aged guy traveling with his 2 young daughters. One was 9, the other was 12, I believe. So he was saying that they've traveled, to a bunch of different campsites in Portugal and northern Spain. And this was like one of the ones that it was like more like roughing it, which I was surprised.
Off grid, right? I think is how.
Off grid, he said. Now, the funny thing is he's like, but you guys, you're not really roughing it, because we were in a caravan that had AC.
Yes, that's the only thing that was like not roughing.
Correct.
I would say. I mean, it was also nice too. The caravan had this really nice deck, so accommodation wise, it was fine. It had a bathroom, but it was not in use, which was a bummer.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the caravan had their own bathroom and shower, it would have been nice. But I actually liked the showers. Like we got
I
water.
thought the showers were great.
They did a great job with the showers. It's just the composting thing. It's just there's flies and it's stinky and okay. But instead of us going into so much detail on here, we shot a vlog about it. So.
I don't know how well it's going to come together, but
I'm sure it's funny.
Let us know in the comments section below. And I put this on Instagram and Facebook whenever we first posted that we were doing this trip, because we know it's of interest to people that watch the channel. But what do you hope to learn or see in that video? And then we'll try to make sure that we get it in there if we didn't talk about it actually on camera.
Yeah,
if
we
that
can at
makes
least
sense.
get it in like text or like voiceover or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll try to compile what you want and we'll get it in there.
But I don't know. We caught some funny things. So stay tuned for that. That'll come out.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Beile.
Okay. Yeah. So I had a good chat with Beile. She moved from Portugal. Excuse me. She moved from Denmark to Portugal as a single parent with 2 kids during the pandemic. So that's a whole lot right there. I do feel like if you are not a parent, the things that she's going to have to say and how she unpacks life will definitely apply. If you are a parent, there are portions of it that are for sure when it comes to schooling, when she talks about that you want to pay attention to and hear. But I mean, yeah, like many people that kind of made transitions in their life during COVID, she went through some of these things that I think will resonate with a lot of people that, ended up making the decision. Even if you didn't move during the pandemic, I think you probably made a few decisions about what you wanted in life, and started to pursue that. But yeah, I mean, she also talks about, compared to Denmark, the cost of things and how the She wanted to lower her cost of living. So
Yeah, you get into finances a little bit, don't you?
we do. I think that was one of the big takeaways is like, I realized how financially savvy she is. I mean, we kind of already knew just based on the bio she gave us that she is into financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
So she speaks to that to some degree, but I think you can follow her content for more of that if you're into like really active investing.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
So
I'd like to pick her brain more on that.
It's got the interview's got a little bit of something for everyone. So even if you don't have kids,
I
not a
think
big
so.
deal.
I think so. And Victoria, the producer, is going to add chapters as well. So feel free to skip around if you need to. Obviously, we'd love for you to listen to this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, feel free to skip around to the places that in the chapters that you feel like are most applicable to you, if not the whole shebang.
Yep. Well, let's get to it.
Let's do it. We know that relocating can be stressful. Trust us, Portugal is the 5th country we've relocated to.
So it's nice to have someone helping you out, which is why we can confidently recommend Global International Relocation, which is a leading provider of relocation, moving, and mobility services.
They can support individuals, families, and even businesses when it comes to moving internationally.
I like how they're able to simplify the relocation process, and they help with everything you can think of, and actually even those things that you don't think of.
Of course, you have the immigration side of things, but there are aspects like pet relocation, shipping your car, moving household goods, and settling in that are all things they assist with. They're really comprehensive when it comes to mobility.
With over 17 years of experience and having expertise in over 180 countries, they aren't just for your move to Portugal.
So for personalized assistance, visit global.pt or get in touch with us for an introduction and to receive a personalized relocation quote. Beile, it's great to have you on. I'm looking forward to our chat and just how inspiring you are. So for those people that aren't single parents, I think that they'll still get something out of this episode. So I'm looking forward to diving into this with you. You moved to Portugal in the summer of 2021. Why?
That's correct. 2021, as you remember, we had a pandemic, we had lockdown. And I come from Denmark. And as you said, I'm alone with 2 kids that I had completely by myself in the sense that it was fertility treatment and a donor. And so in 2020, we had one lockdown in Denmark. That was very long. It was the spring lockdown. And that was kind of okay because it was spring. We could go outside. We could go to the park. And I didn't think it would happen again. But then came winter. And this happened in a lot of places.
Yes.
The winter lockdown, late 2020, early 2021. And that was very tough for me because winter in Denmark, it's not a laughing matter. And I lived in a city, in a place called, if you know, Copenhagen, maybe some of the listeners do, in something called MoveAbroad, which is a really densely populated area. And we couldn't really go outside. It was too cold. I mean, we would be able to go to a cafe or a restaurant, but everything was closed. And being inside an apartment in a city in the winter, and in Denmark, they had these strict rules. You could only see 5 people. And that meant we were basically celebrating the holidays on our own, the 3 of us. And at that time, they were 4 and 7. So they were small, and it was really, really tough. So I remember these winter morning, I was lying in bed and thinking, I don't know how to get through another day. And then I thought, well, we have to figure this out. And I have this technique where if something gets really difficult, I stop myself from spiraling into these negative thoughts because it can get worse and worse and worse. And our mind works in a way where we start asking ourselves questions. Why me? Why did this happen to me? This is no good. So I asked myself, well, what great can come out of this? How would I really like my life to look like? And then I started thinking, if I can do this by myself, like really by myself, celebrate the holidays together, alone, opposite of together, I can do anything. And I thought to myself, why don't I move abroad? Why not? We can always move back, right? Why don't we try it? where would it be nice to be if another lockdown happens? And it did happen again. And then I started researching. First, I actually thought I would go to the US. But if you remember the winter, 2021, that's exactly where you had this whole mess with Capitol Hill, the whole Trump thing. And it looked really messy from Europe. And I thought to myself, well, I don't really want to go to a country that looks like it's going into, I don't know, what is that, civil war? I don't know. That's not for us. And then I thought, well, actually, it would be nice if it was sunny, if there was a good expat community, if the taxes were lower, if there were really good schools, since I came with 2 kids. So I set up these specific criteria. The 5th one was I really wanted to be able to drive home. It gave me a sense of feeling. So, we had this pandemic thing. What if something else happens? I don't know what, but I hadn't seen the pandemic coming. I would just be able to take the car and drive home with the kids. And I was like, okay, so it has to be in Europe. And Portugal was the country that fit all those criteria. Yeah.
Now, you don't often hear about Portugal being low tax. So what was it at the time where you were like, okay, Portugal can fit because it's low tax?
You had, and I think you still have some of it, but it's been changed. You had NHR, which is a program where you apply for it, and then you do not pay taxes on certain incomes. If you have a job in Portugal and you get a salary, you still have to pay tax, but you don't pay taxes on dividends. So if you set a company up before moving to Portugal, outside of Portugal, and you pay yourself, instead of paying salary, you pay dividends, you actually don't pay taxes of that income. And as an entrepreneur, you can pay yourself whatever way you want. So
yep, that's
basically,
right. So
Yes.
Yeah, so that was NHR 1.0. There's an NHR 2.0. We've actually recently done a video about that, about like who qualifies. It seems like NHR 1.0 still kind of had the retirees and more passive income outlets, but NHR 2.0 has kind of shifted in what Portugal is looking for. But you're right. Portugal at the time was definitely considered a tax haven if you fit certain criterias.
And I did. So I pay lower taxes here, like a lot. In Denmark, we pay around 50% in taxes, and even more if you are an entrepreneur, because then you also have to pay, this and that and whatnot. So it really became financially quite a good idea to move. But I also have to say that my cost of living went up a lot, and it has like gradually increased here. I think driven by the fact that so many people come here. Yeah. Is that something you've discussed on
Yeah. So we've talked about it, not with any sort of data though. It's been a little difficult to find like data on what has actually influenced the rise in costs, because I think what we're seeing globally is that costs are going up everywhere. So it's hard to tell like what exactly is the thing that's putting pressure, or is it just a normal thing? Is it normal kind of inflation? Apart from housing, right? Housing has most certainly gone up here, kind of over the odds in certain areas, in certain cities and neighborhoods. Lisbon being the prime example, with its price per square meter on par with other major capital cities across Europe. Whereas like if you look at the wages that the average wage of someone in Lisbon, it doesn't quite match what the average wage of a capital worker in another European country is.
Okay, yeah. I can tell you the story of how my cost of living increased. And it is more than anything, it's housing. So when I first came here, I rented, and I thought about buying actually, but when you first come somewhere, you're not quite sure where you belong. And I went to outside Cascais. Well, it's actually technically in Cascais, but it's not in the center of Cascais, in an area called Aldeia de Juso. It's really close to Ginjo Beach, which is a beautiful, beautiful area. And there was a condominium with townhouses, so attached houses around a pool, the classical way of building. And that was for rent for 3,000. that was already quite a lot because I knew some of the other houses were paying 2,000. But I was like, okay, I really want exactly that house because it wasn't attached on one side. It had the best garden, whatever. And after having lived there for 2 years, the landlord called me and said they were going to increase the rent to 5,000.
Whoa.
And yeah, so that's quite a steep increase. And you have to remember, it's just a townhouse. It's not central. It's away from everything. So I said, no, thank you. And started looking for some place else. I still had another year in the contract. And at the same time, my sons went to school that only went to a certain level. And then they had to change school. So my oldest had to go to another school. And he went to a really, really good school, international school called St. Julian's, which is in Carcavelos. And then I thought to myself, I did the same technique because I was really upset about the housing situation. So instead of asking, oh, why me? Why did this happen? I thought to myself, what would the ideal house look like? What would be the perfect scenario? And I wrote down the list again. And for my son to be able to walk to school would be so great. And then there were other things like it had to have a pool, it had to have a garden, it had to have so many bedrooms. And I found a beautiful house, and this is where I'm sitting right now. Oh, and it had to be close to the ocean with a view of the ocean, and it does have that. So I'm really close to Carcavelos Beach, and it has a pool. My son's school is literally 3 minutes walk away. Everything perfect, but it was not for free, of course. So now I'm paying 6,000. Yeah, so that's more than double of what I'm used to. But it's just so much more than I used to have as well. So in that sense, it's perfect.
Do you have any idea of what the price of the house was before this, price boom?
No, of this house, I actually don't know. And when you say price, do you mean the rent or how much it would cost?
Rent. Yeah, the rent.
I don't know, but all the Portuguese people are telling me that I'm paying too much. So I would think maybe 4,000, maybe 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because the very first apartment that Kaylee and I lived in, which was very central, close to Santa Catarina in Porto here, near the Beile market before it had reopened. And we were doing a house tour. And we posted the video online, and so many Portuguese people flooded the comment section saying, like, you've paid too much. Like, these prices are crazy. And it was only about a year and a half later. We had already moved. We were only there for about 4 months because there was a leak in the roof, and we had to move so they could do repairs. So the property management company that we worked with, they found us a different rental so that we could, finish out our contract with them. And then then we found our last place, not our most recent. But it was really funny because about a year after, I saw the same apartment after the repairs were done, all fixed up, and the price had already increased by about 50%. So it was expensive for Portuguese at the time we moved in, and then it increased by 50%. So I can only imagine what they would think about it then. And then now I believe that it's double what our original rent was. And that's been in the space of like 4.5 years, almost 5.
Yeah, that is crazy. And you have to remember that for the Portuguese, it's really, really expensive. So the minimum wage is around 850 euros, something like that. So for them to pay just 1,000 for an apartment is, they would have to take 2 jobs. Yeah,
exactly. It's not doable. I think that the average wage is something like 1,100 to 1,200 euros a month. But yeah, I mean, for minimum wage, it would be kind of unthinkable to live in a place that costs 1,000, right? So you moved with young kids. How did you find the settling process? Did it take a while? Did it take them a while to adapt?
I actually thought it was very smooth. I mean, of course, in the beginning, you have to, everything. You have to get furnitures for the house. I moved without furnitures. I just bought everything. But what I did, someone told me that the key to everything is to outsource as much as possible. So I did that. I hired a guy to fix all the furniture. the furnitures were there already when we moved in, because I rented the house 1 month in advance, and still from Denmark. I hired him to receive the furnitures, assemble them, have everything ready, make it look like a home. I hired a woman. I found her in one of the Facebook group to help me with everything that had to be done, even from like shopping, everything. She was really a godsend. To cleaning, everything. She just knew how to do everything, to opening a bank account. So she walked around with me. So she was like she was my maid, but she was really, really talented, and she was Portuguese. And that really helped. So hiring people, and I had a company to help me with the NHR, a lawyer. So just outsourcing as much as possible. That really helped. So in about a month, I was settled. Then there were the kids, of course. You can't outsource all that. And they didn't speak English. They went to an international school. So that was a bit more difficult. When we arrived, I just turned 5 and 8. And the oldest one really missed his best friend who lived down the road. He refused to speak in school for a whole year. That was a very long school year. And the other one, who was just 5, he was crying and he couldn't explain. So I made him a little book where he could point to something. There were drawings. So if his tummy was hurting, he could point to that. There would be a little figure touching its tummy. If he missed his mom, there would be a little drawing of me. And he would always point to, I miss my mom, I miss my mom. But you also have to remember that we came out of this, the COVID thing, and we were always together.
Yes.
So I think
Yes,
it
there
didn't
was
matter
more
what
attachment.
school. Yeah, it didn't matter what school he went to. He would have been very upset.
Okay, so the school that they went to, international school that delivers courses in English, not Portuguese, correct?
Correct.
And then the kids knew what languages at the time?
They only knew how to speak Danish.
Danish. Okay. That's what I expected you to say. Okay, so they only knew Danish. How long did it take for them to adapt to learning English and Portuguese?
They haven't actually learned Portuguese. They do have Portuguese classes, but they're not really picking it up. And there's a lot of resistance to that. But English, it took about a year. And now they don't speak Danish anymore. I'm really horrified about that. Yeah, I know. They lost Danish. They understand. I still speak Danish to them. They understand what I'm saying, but they never reply to me in Danish. And the thing is, they went to the same school, so they were used to this environment. So they started speaking English to each other.
Okay.
It just became their main language now.
That's wild. Yeah. That is really wild. But you're gonna persist with speaking Danish at home, and hope that they maybe start to speak Danish back in some time. But their English is now at a fluent level. And
that is really, it's completely fluent, written and verbally, and that is such a gift for them to have. I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, and I have an accent. And people tell me that in the comments. I don't understand what you're saying because of your diction. They will never have that problem because it's beautiful British English that they have. It's it's not even British. It's like the international school kind of thing. It's hard to place exactly where it's from. Yeah,
exactly.
Beautiful language.
Kaylee and I used to teach at an international school in Singapore, and a lot of the teachers were Americans, but we still had Americans, Canadians, a couple British people, and then Singaporeans. Like English is one of the official languages in Singapore, so there's that as well. Although, let's say a very traditional Singapore accent is quite thick to non-Singaporeans. Like it's definitely heavily accented. But at the school, the kids that weren't native English speakers would pick up this very kind of open English accent. You couldn't spot where they're from because they would take little pronunciation or whatever from each dialect, if you will, and they would just run with it, and it was very, very cool. So I know exactly what you mean.
It's actually funny. And during the second year, one had a Canadian teacher, so he sounded very kind of American, and the other one had a British teacher and sounded like he came straight out of Oxford. And it was really funny because they sounded so different. They just picked up the teacher's dialect, But, you know,
Sure.
then they had other teachers and it kind of smooths out. But the first year that they spoke, they sounded like they were from 2 different continents. It was really funny.
That's amazing. What are your plans for Portuguese? Like, do you hope personally to be working on it, or if you aren't already? And then what do you want to do with the boys so that they can maybe adapt better to local things?
That's such a good question. And I'm really surprised that we haven't learned it. I have lived in many countries, and I've lived in Israel, I speak Hebrew. I've lived in Germany, I speak German. And in Spain, I speak Spanish. And this time, I've really struggled with picking up Portuguese. I don't think it's that easy. But the problem is also there are two things. One, everybody here speaks English, and they switch to English every time you try to speak to them. And the second thing is it's so close to Spanish that I tend to switch to Spanish, and everyone then, if they don't speak English, then they understand me in Spanish, and you know. So, but for them, sometimes I'm thinking that in order for them to really learn Portuguese, I would actually have to switch them to a Portuguese school, which would be a shame because, you know, I don't want to take them away for their friends, just, you know, if I don't really have to. But the other thing we could do is to find a club, soccer, football, something, basket, where they only speak Portuguese. So help them in their free time, you know, outside school, find a way for them to speak Portuguese.
Nice. Okay, let's switch gears a bit because I want to talk about the fact that you did move with these 2 boys. You came here with no job, no network, and you've made it as a solo parent. So how did you do it? Like, what were the steps you took, and where are you at now?
Okay, so there are 3 really bold choices that I've taken, I would say. The first one that happened first was having kids on my own. And I was close to 40. I was 40 when the first one was born. So I was, you know, after 35, I started thinking about it. And I simply just didn't have a partner to have them with. That's why I did it that way. The second decision was to become financially free. And I did that because when I had the second child, I was fired while on maternity leave. And I used to work as a financial journalist. The newsroom and single moms, just wasn't a fit. And, you know, they also have declining readership. I was working for a newspaper and they have these big cuts. So I was fired. And when that happened, I decided I will never let this happen again because that was so shattering for me. I mean, I was very upset. It was my identity, my network, everything. It was my income. So I decided I'm going to become financially free. Whatever it takes, I'm going to figure this out. And fortunately, you know, I know about money. I was already a financial journalist. So
you've got a background.
Yeah. And the third choice was moving to Portugal, just like that, without family, friends, just me and 2 kids. So how did I make that happen? And I'm guessing you're mostly interested in how did I make Portugal happen? And well, first of all, the way I thought about it was, well, I want to avoid these lockdowns in hell. So at least if we're in a house with a garden, it would be nicer than an inner city apartment. You know, I cannot lose anything. This is a win-win game I'm playing here. So, you know, there are questions you can ask yourself, and most people ask, so what if it goes wrong? What's going to happen? It's even better to ask, what if it goes well? What if it all works out? But let's say, what if it goes wrong? What if you don't like it? Well, you can always move back. I mean, there's nothing to lose. It's like going on holidays just a little longer. That's how I thought about it, at least.
Or move to another country, right? Like maybe one place isn't a fit for you. We actually know someone early days, like in 2021, probably 6 months after we moved here, that also moved here. They had been following our stuff and we connected and like had a coffee and kind of shared stories, and things were going well for them, but not great. And then it was about 6 months later, we get a message from them and they decided Portugal wasn't a fit and they've moved to Thailand. Just like that.
Also great. Yeah. Also a great country. And it happens that people move back. There was someone we moved at the same time and we were chatting about moving during the pandemic. And she just moved back to the Czech Republic. And I was really sad about it. And when I hear her story, I understand why she moved. They had a lot of struggles with housing. She moved with a boyfriend. That's why I say they. And you told the story of how your roof fell in. She had, in one place, she had the roof fell in. There was a pipe that burst. They had huge cockroaches coming in all the time. It just kept on coming, and it was expensive as well. So they had 3-4 years where they kept on looking for something and paid too much and had so many problems. And in the end, she was like, I'm done. I'm exhausted because of the housing situation. I mean, for me, I've moved, I've been in 2 houses. I've moved once while I've been in Portugal, which is fine. It's just, what's really important when you move is finding your people, somehow connecting into others, because what I found can be really difficult is if you're lonely here. And I've had periods where I'm a bit lonely, but when you have kids, first of all, if you have kids, you have the school, then it's a really good idea to get engaged in the school. Go to whatever they suggest. Go to the meetings, go to the coffee meetings. And I've found great friends through the school. Nice. Another thing is, if you're an entrepreneur like me, find some kind of co-work space. This is my office. I have a great office. I don't have a co-work space right now. I did go to a co-work space and I found great friends there. And you can sign up for one and just show up once a week, just for the network. A third thing you can do is sports activities. And I like to run. That's not very social. So, paddle could be a thing. Surfing, maybe. Surfing is a bit solo too. The idea would be to find something where you do something with other people.
Sure.
So those are 3 ways. Yes.
Yeah, I think that there are Facebook groups as well for those sports activities. So even if you're a surfer, while it is kind of a solo sport, to be able to go out with a couple people and catch some waves, and like to be paddling while you're chatting, and then obviously you kind of only take one wave per person, but I totally agree with you. I think that sports are a great way, and it's a way that I've actually more recently found more Portuguese friends. I've started doing some pickup soccer, and if I can just stay healthy, I can be going every week. Sometimes you get these little injuries, certainly at my age, but I agree. That's amazing that you highlight community and finding not just a network, because maybe sometimes when we use the word network, it sounds like there's this transaction that's happening. That's maybe community is more about the kind of emotional connections that are made. But I think networking it's right to say that there can be emotional connections that are made as well. I'm curious to know, actually, like financially, how did you do it? Like, what did you build? I'm assuming remotely, that allows you to live here in Portugal and do what you do.
Okay, so when I was fired on maternity leave, I started researching. I knew that I wanted to invest in stocks, and I just read everything I could about everything, and I found my path. I already knew it existed, but I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And it's called value investing. And what does that mean? It's the way that Warren Buffett invests. And it's very different from other ways of investing. So most people, they invest in index funds. It's also called passive investing. You're told to follow the market. Well, there's a school, and this school is value investing, that do not believe that the market is efficient. So the idea that you should just follow the market, invest in passive funds, if you do that, you are actually believing that the market is efficient. And that this is where you have to question yourself, is the market really efficient? And when I look at history, the financial crisis, the dot-com bubble, what just happened recently with the tariff situation, and how much it just, all of a sudden went a little bananas there for a moment, I'm quite sure that the market is not efficient. I'm very sure that it's not efficient. So what does that mean? That means people get very emotional because the stock market is really one big auction. So if you think about how does an auction work, and you can see maybe this whatever, a movie that you have an auction, there's a rare painting going up, and you see how they get excited. You know, they're overbidding each other. That's actually happening in the market. People get too excited about stuff, and they get really scared about other things. That makes the stock prices fall way too much, go up way too much. And if you have that in mind, you can actually play a different game. And that's the game where you figure out, what is this company actually worth? Because that is something you can calculate. And, you know, it is doable. And then you figure out, when the stock price falls way under what the company is worth, that's when you invest. At some point, the market is not efficient in periods, but, you know, it will kind of go back to a balance. So if you catch it when it's really falling, and then it will rise again, the stock price will rise again, you get a really good return. And that's how I'm investing. There are other things to it. You can't just look at the stock price and invest when it's dipping. You have to look at the company and find wonderful company, which means they have to have good management, a good product. They have to have some kind of moat that protects them, meaning competitive advantages. So that also that a lot of, yes, there's a whole checklist to go through to make sure this is a good company. And what you're really checking is this a company I believe will be bigger in 10 years? So we're always thinking 10 years out and investing long term.
Okay, so your investment strategy sounds, let's say, a bit intense in terms of the research that one must do. So is it a bad strategy for people that like have no inclination to do this, to just invest in the market and maybe dollar cost average through an index fund?
Okay, so yeah, that's a really good point, because not everyone's going to do all that research.
Right.
So what if you're a person who wants to become financially independent? You don't want to leaf through 10Ks, as we call them, annual reports. You're just like, no, I've got children, a full-time job. That's not for me. I'm not going to put another like job on top of a job.
Yes.
And I want to say, well, it doesn't actually take that much time, but let's just go with it. Let's say it's not for you. You can do passive investing, but you have to be careful. Right now, and you can see how high the stock market is at by, you can just Google something called Shiller's PE ratio. You can Google it right now. It's going to be the top thing that comes up. And you'll see that this which measures how expensive the stock market is. PE is, it's a ratio that you can have for a single company, and it just takes the stock price and compares it to the income, the earnings in the company. The higher the PE is, the more expensive the company is compared to what they earn. Shiller's PE ratio will show you the whole market, or the US market. And that is right now at more than 36. And in 1929, it was at 31. So the stock market right now is more expensive than in 1929, which is a scary thought. So what
predicting
you have to do,
a crash, essentially.
I mean, at some point, it has to go back to a more reasonable level.
Okay.
So what do you do? Well, it's really important to do dollar cost averaging. But you can't just do dollar cost averaging and just stay at that level. So you have to dollar cost average when it falls down. And what I would do, I would actually invest more when it falls.
Okay.
Because that's when you can really build your future financial wealth. That's if you're getting these stocks at a good price. But don't stop investing. Because some people, they try to time the market. And that's a funny term, because some people will tell me, are you timing the market? No, I'm not. I'm looking at the companies. I'm investing when they're, when it's the right time to invest in that company. You cannot do the same with the whole market and just wait for the market to crash. Then you have to do dollar cost averaging, but have extra funds that you can put in there if the market starts crashing.
Yeah.
So just
for the listener that doesn't know what dollar cost averaging is, would you like to explain it?
Of course. Dollar cost averaging is when you invest the same amount for the same period. So it could be every month. It's typically every month. So you choose a fund an ETF, they're also called, an index fund. What is an index? An index is a group of companies, like a cluster of companies, and they follow that cluster, which means the index funds are really cheap in administrative costs. So the fee is not very high. That's why we choose those. So you pick a fund and then you invest the same amount every month. So it could be $1,000. You just every month you invest $1,000. So let's say the crash is coming. What do most people do? They panic, they stop investing. Maybe they even sell. Well, you want to do exactly the opposite. You want to invest more. So as it falls, you might want to invest 2,000, 3,000. I actually, before I started investing like a value investor, when I was still working as a journalist, I did dollar cost averaging into index fund. I did exactly that. And I invested through the financial crisis. Yeah, this was in my retirement savings. So this was not money for now. So I was just thinking very long term. What I did when the financial crisis came was I invested as much as I could. All through 2008, 2009, I invested. I even told my company, don't pay me any salary, just put all of it into my retirement savings for 2 months. They did that. It's like, no, I'll just eat oatmeal, we're investing now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So you have, during this process, you have made financial sacrifices. I assume that you live below your means so that you have additional funds that you can put towards investments. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Well, back then, yes, I did. I didn't drink that many cocktails when I was investing more in the market. So
those are expensive in Copenhagen.
Yes, they are.
Cocktails.
Yes. Yes. And I used to think when you start investing, you might be really scared of losing money. That's very normal.
Yeah.
I used to think, well, I'll just invest a dress. I used to think of it in terms of something I wouldn't buy that I would invest. And if I bought a dress, the money would be lost anyway. I'm investing a dress this month. Well, buy a dress. It's fine. And that really helps, I think, because, we are losing money all the time anyway when we're spending it.
Yes.
When
we're buying things that depreciate, like a dress. Yes. So instead, you decided to switch it and buy things that appreciate. Okay, that's really cool. Okay, so we've talked a bit about, I guess, your investment strategy, but how does that pay for your lifestyle? Because what I was hearing was like investing for the future, but how does that affect your here and now? And how have you built a business around it?
Yes. So I talk a lot about becoming financially free, and I was financially free when living in Copenhagen. And I would say my costs of living were a lot lower. I would pay less than 1,000 for everything, the housing, the electricity, heating. So everything related to living in an apartment was less than 1,000 euros. So what I did, and I just also want to say right now with the level with a rent that's 6,000, I do rely on other income, which is from my side business, from teaching people how to invest. But how did I do it when I was completely financially free? Well, people usually think there's just one way to make money off stocks, and that's selling stocks. But that's not true. There are other ways. So one way is dividends. I'm not a big fan of dividend stocks or dividend kings. And what does that mean? Dividend kings are very mature companies that pays a lot of their profit out in dividends. And dividends is something you as a stockholder will get right into your account. It's like cash on your account. The problem with that is these companies are very mature. They only pay a dividend because they don't have anything else to invest in. So they don't have expansion in the market or new products or acquisitions they want to make. So we can't expect them to grow. And if they don't grow, then, the stock will not grow a lot either. You will not make a lot of money that way. So I'm not crazy about dividend kings. I don't mind if the company pays a dividend, but dividend kings are a special thing. Those are companies that pay a lot in dividend. There are other ways to make money off your stock. And one of my favorite strategies or favorite ways is to sell options. Now, options trading is a whole thing. And there have actually been examples of people getting really in trouble because of options. It is a little complicated. So it's not something you don't want to listen to this podcast and go, oh, I'm going to sell an option, because you can get in trouble. You have to learn what it is. But I'm using options trading. So what I do is, if I know I want to invest in a certain company, I'll set some money aside. But you know how I invest, it has to fall down to a certain stock price before I want to invest. Well, when you sell an option, you are promising that you will buy that company at a certain stock price. The people on the other side of the trade, they want an insurance. They already have that investment, and they want to make sure that somebody will buy these stocks from them if they fall. So it's a different way of thinking. Well, I've got cash, I want to invest, and then I sell this options contract, which means I am actually kind of an insurance company for the other people. It means I get an income. I'm selling something, so I get an income, which gives me a cash flow.
Okay.
And that's how I make money to become financially free.
Okay. Very interesting. I wanted to ask you, because you said that your cost of living in Copenhagen was 1,000 euros, we're talking, right? But your housing cost here in Portugal is 6,000. Why did you choose to accept that massive increase?
Well, it's been like a gradual process, right? And I've really, really thought about it, worked around my own thinking. So in Copenhagen, I lived in a nice, really, really nice apartment, but it was too small for us. It was fine with babies, but when they grow older, they want to have their own room. So I knew that, I had to get out of that apartment. And also the neighborhood and the schools in the neighborhood weren't that good. So I wanted something else. I really wanted my kids to live in a house with a garden.
Okay.
Now the area around Copenhagen, we have our own little housing bubble. They're really, really expensive. So I had my eyes on a very particular house that was a townhouse, and it doubled in price from before the pandemic until after the pandemic. Just the housing market reacted really strongly on the pandemic and the lockdowns. Everybody wanted to get out of apartments. So when I first came here, I thought, well, 2,000-3,000 for renting a house, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay.
And then, things shifted. A lot of people came to Portugal. The rents increased. It wasn't like, yay, I want to pay 6,000. But I looked at so many houses, and there were a lot of, there was nothing for 3,000 I could accept living in. It wasn't an option. And in the end, I was like, okay, let's make this work. What do I really want? I set that list of my dream house. It was a lot more than, I was used to. But then I remembered something Jane Fonda said. If you remember Jane Fonda, the sex symbol of, I think, the 60s. Also, what you don't probably think about with Jane Fonda is she was an incredible businesswoman. And I'm really inspired by her. If you remember, she had this workout thing. She built a whole chain of workout chains.
That's what I know her for.
Oh,
yeah, my mom would do her exercises. Yeah.
Yeah. She's really inspiring because she switched careers so many times, and she was always good at making money. And I read her biography, and in it she says, well, a lot of people were dependent on me, so I had to make a lot of money. And I thought, that's in a way that's really great. You have to make it work. And that's what I thought, okay, I'll accept this house because I want to create a really great life for my kids with a great school, and, walking home from school, he can just take his friends. The other day, one of the mom asked, can you please take another kid, Timur, because we're moving to a different house. Again, the whole thing with housing. And I said, yeah, sure, you can sleep here. And then I got this message on an email. My son has a school iPad. I do not allow him to have a phone. And he said, can I also bring this person? I said, yes, sure. A little later, can I also bring this person? I said, yes, sure. And it continued. In the end, he had 7 friends coming over from school. They just walked here. And that is exactly what I dreamt of. So I thought to myself, well, I've got a lot of responsibility. I have to make this work. I just have to make a lot of money. And then I started changing my business. And last year I made a decent amount of money. I made $500,000 in revenue. This year's been tough. So that's like, whoa, with the stock market being so volatile, people are a little more hesitant to learn about investing as well. But, we always think long-term. In investing, we think long-term. And I think when running a business, we have to think, you can't just think, this month was bad. You have to think, some years out, maybe not 10 years out, but at least, 3, 2, 3, 5 years out. So that's the game, thinking long-term.
Exactly. I'm curious to know about some of the cost of living. I don't necessarily compare, but since you referenced Copenhagen earlier, how does your grocery bill compare here in Portugal versus when you were living there? Obviously, the boys are older and they're eating more, I'm sure, but
things like groceries, I hardly think about it. I just buy what we need, and that's a wonderful place to be. I just when we eat out, we eat out. It's not even something I consider. But one thing I have thought about is whenever I fly back to Denmark, I get this culture shock. When I shop, I'm like, and I get so surprised at how much things cost in Denmark when we're eating out. It's so funny. It might be okay with the cost of a meal, but it's the drinks that are really expensive. And then I asked them, can we just have water? And then they actually charge you for the water as well. And every time we go back to Denmark, we go through the same things. The boys get a little scared and they ask me, Mom, are we running out of money? Because I start acting weird because I get so surprised how expensive it is when I go back.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's not as if I get a shock per se, because I didn't know what prices were before or what they should be. I always consider, as an American going to Copenhagen or going to Denmark, that it's going to be expensive. Whether I'm in either Denmark or Sweden, it's like my brain's like, okay, this isn't the euro. They're doing their own thing currency wise, and things are more expensive here. But on our most recent trip to Copenhagen, we noticed that certainly drinks are really expensive, but just going out to eat. Grocery stores, like the grocery store prices were okay, more than Portugal, but you'd expect that. But eating out is just soul crushing.
It is. And that makes it a little bit difficult to go home. And when you have two very lively boys, it's not always that people say, yeah, you can stay at our place. I mean, I've had family that were really kind, but it's not always that easy. So it's preferable if that was hard to pronounce. Preferable if we can, stay at our own place, but then you have to eat out all the time. So
yes,
so that is an issue.
So how much on average do you pay in Portugal then to take the boys out?
If we go out for 60 euros maybe, and if we really have dessert as well and everything, 100 euros, I think, something like that.
And then how about your utilities?
What does utilities mean? Gas and all that?
Gas, electric, water,
Yeah, I don't always think about it. I think because this is a big house and it's got a pool and it's got this and that, I think it's 200-300 for electricity. Gas is not a lot. That does not. It's not even something I consider. It's these big
gas just heats the water. Is that correct? Okay. Like you don't use it for cooking as well.
Yeah, I do use it for cooking. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you do have a gas oven. Okay. Range.
Yeah.
Okay. And then water bill?
Yeah. Not a lot. I can't remember, but it's not a lot. It's the electricity bill that I'm like, okay, that's a decent amount. But we also have air conditioning everywhere and, a pump in the pool. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the house. So that's 200-300 euros a month.
Okay. And summertime, you're running it more than other times of the year as well. Yeah, I think for us, water, we pay between 15 and 20 euros. It's not much. I mean, maybe the highest I've seen it has been like 25, but it's pretty steady between like 15 and 20. Unfortunately, now we have gas and we can't quite dial the machine in. So sometimes it runs when we don't actually need it to be running to keep the water warm so that you can jump in the shower straight away and have hot water. So our gas bill has been crazy, but electric stays pretty steady. It's usually under 100, but our place is smaller. It's a smaller 2-bedroom apartment. So, I mean, what you're saying sounds quite normal with what I've heard others. Okay,
The other thing about these all these costs is, we have our children for so many years, and my oldest is turning 12, and I'm just starting to count down as well. So maybe
Sure.
when he's 15, he wants to go to, it's kind of like a boarding school in Denmark for a year, and then he won't be here. Then maybe we don't need such a big house. Things will change in just a few years. And there will be other costs if he goes to, now he's talking about going to college in the US. And it's like, can you pay for that,
man.
Mom? I was like, okay.
What are international school fees?
So it's around 10,000 per child per semester, and that's 3 times a year. So 30,000 per child, so 60,000.
Okay. And I did want to bring it back to something you mentioned earlier, and I forgot to ask. I think we got carried away. We got swept away in this conversation. How much did it cost for the fixer, I guess, that you had? So the guy that you had that would get the furniture and assemble everything, and then also the Portuguese cleaner that helped you with the other things. What were their rates like?
Okay, so the cleaner it was a full-time employment, and she was 1,200 a month, including everything.
That's awesome.
And
that's a nice salary for her too.
Yeah, it is. When you know that the minimum wage is at that time was 750, so for her, but
Yep.
she was also like, she really knew how to get stuff done. She was great.
She was good. Nice.
Yeah. And you have all these freelancers here, and it really depends what they do. So if it's something easy like cleaning, I just pay flat 10. And I know the Portuguese people probably pay even 7 an hour. But I just, it's easy, 10. I can pay 10. I want them to have a good life too. So I just pay 10. And I know in this area, I mean, near Cascais, some of the other expats family are actually paying 12 now. So I think that's, so I'm still sticking to the 10. And then you have a child sitter, depending how old they are. But I also just pay 10, flat 10, let's go. Then you have people that will do, I have a really good guy who will do all those things. It's not the same that I used back then, but he will do, he will come in with this laser thing. If I need something on the wall, like make it really perfect. He's
Nice.
25 an hour.
Okay.
He's really, really good. So that's a real handyman,
It's worth it. Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's the most expensive I've had per hour rates. That's 25. So anywhere between 10 and 25 is what you will expect to pay for a freelancer that will help you with something.
Okay. That's a great range to allow someone to kind of wrap their head around. And Beile, I really appreciate you opening up on some of these costs, because some people aren't comfortable doing that. If people want to get in touch with you and maybe even learn about your financial stuff, how best they do that?
Well, there's my website that's called moneyandfreedom.com. And if you want to learn more
link
about
to
investing, go to free resources. There's an ebook, checklist, different things you can download. And of course, I have everything. I have Instagram, and that's Money and Freedom with Stocks. I have a podcast that's Money and Freedom with, and then my full name, Beile Grünbaum. I have YouTube as well, Money and Freedom with Stocks. And and X and LinkedIn, it's just my first name. That's the handle. So Beile. And I'd love to hear questions from people.
Okay. If people have questions, they can either drop them in the comment section below, or go to your stuff and ask you, because you're very much an open book. Have one more question for you before we go. At Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. How has living abroad transformed your life?
Oh, it's transformed it in so many ways. I can't even. When I lived in Denmark, I was quite lonely actually with the kids. And, one of the big barriers mentally to moving is I'm going to be lonely. I am not lonely here. I mean, there's times when I'm working a lot and I'm in the house a lot, but I have a lot more people around me with the kids, because the other families, they don't have their families either. They moved here and need, new friends as well. So it's really easy to make friends, I find. So I'm a lot happier here than I was in Denmark. It's really, really transformed my life. It's been quite great. And the boys, and this is important too, they are thriving now. They're really happy. I just before coming on this podcast had a meeting with the school online with my boy sitting next to me. And he had to rate himself, like, how happy are you? How confident are you in yourself? It was from 1 to 5, and he gave himself 4 and 5. Except at it was one point where he gave himself 1. And that was, if he felt he had enough time, that was a 1. And then we dove into that, and it was about the homeworks. He really didn't like the homeworks, which is like, I think any kid that is 11,
Natural.
Almost 12 will be like, I don't like the homeworks. But all the other ones were 4 and 5. So that's great.
Brilliant. Beile, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.